I have finally arrived in Australia, the furthest place from home I could physically travel to on planet Earth. Since December alone, I have crossed 5 continents and visited many different countries along the way. I have always heard the phrase travel broadens the mind, but since I was already a very educated man to begin with, this trip has just helped further reinforce all my personal views on geography and culture. Being the educated man that I am, I know a bloody lot about the history of gaming, and being such a respectable giving gaming connoisseur, I love to share with you my knowledge and opinions on various games and systems as I travel about. Today I'm going to be talking about Terranigma, a game that takes place across the various continents around the world. I have traversed both the globe in this game and the globe in this complex game we call real life. So therefore, I am more qualified to talk about this one than anyone else. Before we dive into the story and gameplay of Terranigma, let's talk a little bit about the game's history. Terranigma is one of 3 action role-playing games for the Super Nintendo, developed by Quintet and published by Enix. All 3 of these games were well received, and each entry in the series was arguably better than the next. All 3 of these games feature similar gameplay tropes, but all feature their own unrelated narrative story, much like the Final Fantasy series, I suppose. Anyway, Terranigma, the biggest and most ambitious of these 3 games, was released in Japan on October 20th, 1995 and in PAL regions on December 19th, 1996. Unfortunately for some though, this game was never released in North America, meaning many players automatically missed out on this game when it was in its prime. The story of Terranigma tells the story of Earth's resurrection by the hands of a boy named Ark, and its progress from the evolution of life to the present day. In Terranigma, the planet Earth is portrayed as a hollow sphere that had both an external and internal face. Since the beginning of Earth, the external light side, the surface world, stood for growth, whereas the internal dark side, the underworld, represented decline. Over the course of billions of years, these 2 forces came to be called God and the Devil. Regardless of their inner antagonism, rapid progress took root and primitive life forms evolved to plants, animals and humans. Technology and industry further expanded civilization, but the fight between God and the Devil was still taking place more fiercely than ever. The conflict culminated in a final battle in Antarctica on the surface world. However, neither of the 2 forces were victorious. The continent of the surface world submerged into the sea and the underworld was sealed away. To help players follow the story of the game, this gameplay experience is split into chapters. The game's first chapter introduces Ark, a strapping young fellow who goes on to travel the world. Much like myself really! Anyway, the mischievous boy known as Ark lives in Christa, the only village in the underworld. After opening a forbidden door and touching a mysterious box containing a friendly demon inside called Yomi, every citizen in his village is frozen. The only person not affected by the curse is the Elder, who guides Ark to resurrect the continents of the surface world in order to unfreeze the people of his village. A way out of his hometown appears, and for the first time ever, a human being leaves Christa to explore the underworld, which is portrayed as a frozen wasteland of imposing crystal mountains crossed by rivers of magma. Early in the game, Ark conquers the trials of the 5 towers of the underworld and revives the mainland of the Earth. Upon returning to his hometown, the Elder instructs him to travel to the surface world and to resurrect all living beings. With a heavy heart, Ark says goodbye to his lifelong devoted friends and sets out to save the world, leading to the main girth of the game. Story-wise, I will not go into any further detail, as the story of this game is an integral part of the gaming experience, and I would not want to take it away from players by giving out further spoilers. In terms of mechanics, you play as Ark from a top-down perspective, and the game utilises an action-based real-time battle system. This allows the players to perform different techniques depending on whether the protagonist is running, jumping, attacking or using a combination of these 3 actions. Essentially gameplay wise, think Link to the Past with a little bit of Secret of Mana mixed in. As you slay foes, with each victory experience points are gained, increasing Ark's level and his maximum hit points, strength, defense and luck. Slain enemies sometimes leave behind gems which can be used to buy weapons, armours, healing items and spells. There are no magic points in the game, and all spells take the form of one-time used items instead. The player must collect Magirocks and take them to a magic shop to have them transformed into magic rings and summon medals. Those items are used up when casting the corresponding spells and then turned back to Magirocks, which may be exchanged for new spells once again. Upon defeating bosses and completing miscellaneous tasks, new types of magic become available. The main aspect of Terranigma is following the story and exploring the huge, beautiful world. Within this world you visit various dungeons containing enemies and puzzles, much like you would find in Zelda games. You even find yourself in situations where you use different key items in order to progress through these dungeons. On top of the typical action-adventure formula of visiting towns and fighting through dungeons, there is tons of other things to do too. As you progress through the game, you are able to influence not only evolution itself, but also the progress of mankind as well. I won't go into too much detail here though, as this is all the stuff you need to learn about through playing the game yourself. In regards to the game's graphics, looking at Terranigma's visuals, only one possible conclusion can be drawn, and that conclusion is that we are all looking at the pinnacle of 2D graphics on the Super Nintendo. Visually, this game is right up there with Seiken Densetsu 3 and Chrono Trigger amongst the most beautiful looking games on the entire platform. The character sprites are extremely detailed, well animated and pleasing to the eye, with a lively and vivid look. Even more impressive are the enemy sprites, with the clear highlight being the boss enemies looking both amazing and menacing, which is everything a boss should be. Overall, Terranigma's graphics are a thing of beauty, and look as good today as they did on the game's release. I suppose they are like myself and fine wines, and simply get better with age. Yeah! The great story, gameplay and graphics in this game is all nicely laced together with the great soundtrack. The game does a great job of successfully setting the emotion and tone of each area using the sheer quality on the audio it is paired with. For some reason, most RPGs on the SNES appear to have bloody great music, and Terranigma is not an exception to this rule. The music in this game is easily on par with the likes of Secret of Mana, Earthbound and Final Fantasy VI. Terranigma is among the best games released on the Super Nintendo, and I personally feel that if North America got this one, then Terranigma would be one of the games that's names get shouted from the rooftops, like the likes of Legend of Zelda and Chrono Trigger. Terranigma really is one of the all-time greats, and today only a lack of exposure holds this game back. I strongly urge you to play Terranigma. It is as culturally important to you as a gamer as it is culturally important for you to travel the planet. Thankfully, I have done both of those things, so I am far along in my journey of education. We should all strive to experience as many things in life as possible, and Terranigma is one of those great experiences you can get without even leaving your living room. So I leave you with two final thoughts for today. Get out there and explore the world, and play bloody Terranigma. Cheerio! Thank you for joining me down under and watching today's video. I shall continue from week to week to bring you culturally enlightening gaming videos as I travel around the world. Shout outs to Jarrett Tolzien, Mad Ape Productions, Andreas Larson, Peter Dawn, Mike Frost, Edward O'Reilly and all of my other patrons. Thank you all for your support. Yeah! If you want to be added to this prestigious list of patrons, then check out my Patreon page. Ta-ta and farewell.